This is the Hello Kitty murder case, and it's one of the most gruesome true crime stories you may ever hear about. This happened in 1999, and Fan here was abducted by 3 men and a girl. Fan Man Yu was then held inside of a flat that one of the killers rented out for about a month. She was tortured and beaten, and they even tried to pimp her out. And apparently she was hung up and used as a punching bag. They even went as far as burning up her legs so that she couldn't even walk. She also had no real food to eat. They forced her to eat human feces. After that immense stress her body went through, she died after a little over a month being held captive there. This is where things get even crazier. They cut up her body, dismembered her completely, and then cooked up her head. They then stuffed her half-cooked head into a Hello Kitty mermaid doll. Investigators found this and found many insects inside of it as well. The rest of her dismembered body was discarded somewhere. The only pieces of evidence the investigators found was the skull inside of the Hello Kitty doll, some teeth on the ground, and organs in the freezer. Reading this story makes me just feel so horrible for Fan Man Yi and the torture she went through. This is definitely the worst true crime case I've ever read about, and then there are just so many more details I can't even say. Let me know what you guys think about this case in the comment section below, and as always, these videos are for informational purposes only.
She filmed a video of her smothering her son and sent it to her friend. This is 20-year-old Emma Rigdon from St. Louis, Missouri. On April 15th of this year, Emma was with her son when she slapped his leg and put her hand over his nose and mouth. Obviously, this was preventing him from breathing. Emma decided to record this incident and send it to a friend. She also recorded another video of her covering her son's face with a blanket and her hand. This caused the boy to cry and grab at the blanket. Once she sent that video to her friend, she also sent a handful of text messages. The first text said, "I don't know, when I do that, I feel an adrenaline rush." The next text said, "I stopped right before he dies, last time he was blue." The last twisted text she sent said, "I really want to unalive him, but I don't want to go to jail. It's unfortunate, but he's just going to have to pay for his existence." The boy ended up surviving his wounds, and now someone else is taking care of him. Emma was arrested and charged with abuse or neglect of a child. She remains in jail without bond.
The most disturbing cults in history, Part 1. These are the Anthill Kids, founded by this man, Roch Theriault, in Quebec, Canada. These events took place throughout the 70s and 80s. Using his excellent charismatic skills, he actually convinced a group of people to quit their jobs and follow him, promising unity and equality. He forbid them contact with their family and moved them out to the mountains. He called it Eternal Mountain. In 1978, he prepared for doomsday, having his followers build a town that could save them. He relaxed while they worked and compared them to ants on an anthill. To gain more followers and keep them devoted, he impregnated all female members. They were also forced to wear the same outfit, promoting equality.
Here are some morbid facts about the Chernobyl nuclear disaster. Following the radiation leak, there were an estimated 150,000 abortions across Eastern Europe due to radiophobia. Many parents didn't want their babies to be born with mutations, even though the risk for most was quite low. Vasily Ignatenko was one of the first firemen to respond to the nuclear leak. After being exposed, he suffered in constant excruciating pain for 18 days before dying. He reportedly excreted blood more than 25 times per day and coughed up pieces of his own organs in those final days. When Pripyat was abandoned, people weren't allowed to bring their pets with them. Instead, firing squads were sent door to door to shoot pet cats and dogs so that they wouldn't transfer the radiation. Local ranchers noticed a dramatic increase in the genetic mutations of their animals following the leak. Some of the abnormalities included extra limbs and body parts in the wrong locations. It's been more than 4 decades since the Chernobyl accident, but experts estimate that Pripyat will remain uninhabitable for another 20,000 years.
This is the first day my Barbie became alive. It was trying to walk, so I helped it. I made a huge mistake. My Barbie is learning to talk in Ohio now.
These are the four most haunted dolls in the world. First is the Annabelle doll, which inspired the Conjuring movies, which as you guys know is one of the most haunted dolls in the world. She's able to not only move herself, but also move objects, and is supposedly inhabited by an extremely demonic being, forcing her to constantly be in a spirit box. We then have Ruby, which in my opinion is one of the most terrifying due to the fact that it's a porcelain doll, which all of our mothers and grandmothers have. Ruby doesn't do anything crazy, but the scariest part is supposedly the ancestor who had this doll prior passed while holding this doll, and now supposedly inhabits it. And it's a porcelain doll, which makes it absolutely terrifying. Then have Letta, who's a 200-year-old doll found underneath a house in Australia, said to make noises in the night, move by itself, and the owner has a specific account of when he was moving he heard this doll scream while being in the trunk, screaming, "Let me out." I'm good on everything that. Then you have Robert the doll, who in my opinion is probably the most haunted and cursed doll on this list. Said to be so cursed that if you take a picture or look at him without his permission, he can curse you. And this has happened to multiple people who decided to film Robert without his permission. This doll not only moves by itself, but the previous owner has made multiple statements of hearing this doll run inside of the attic. On top of that, the neighbors have seen Robert peeking out the window on the second story, while no one was up there. These dolls, they're scary.
Have you guys heard of the Night Lady? This all started in Chihuahua, Mexico, 2009. Residents started noticing something really disturbing. You see, now some of the children in the area were going missing. I gotta grab some food for this one. Look at this beautiful roll. Now with all the children around the area going missing, people started reporting seeing a woman. They said she would climb on the rooftops during the day, only to wait till night to sneak in through the window to snatch children. Police then sketched an image of what they believed to be the Night Lady. Only one child has been reported of actually escaping the Night Lady. You see, his parents had ran into the room and caught her just in time. She quickly then escaped and crawled out of the window. Wait, before I continue, let's say the Night Lady had taken you. Your third act has to come and save you. Who is it? Let me know who it is. Anyways, the kid that got away recounted waking up in the middle of the night and seeing the Night Lady standing over top of him, just watching him. People have brushed this off as just one big hoax until after midnight, a teenage girl had captured this photo. This is supposedly the Night Lady.
This is the scariest story about I'm Sorry Mommy. One night, a woman was in the kitchen reading a newspaper when she suddenly looked up and saw her 6-year-old son staring at her. She said, "Something wrong, dear?" "I had a nightmare," said the boy, "and I can't sleep." "Well, don't worry, you're safe now," said the mother. "I dreamed I was in bed and heard a sound in Daddy's room," he said. "And when I looked in the door, I saw 2 big black things with white eyes. It came out of the closet and it attacked Daddy." "Don't worry," said the mother in a soothing voice. "It was just a dream. It didn't really happen." The boy then continued saying they ripped him into pieces and then ate him after. "And they even licked the blood off the floor. I thought if I ran away they wouldn't catch me. But they did. They were going to eat me, but they stopped and said, they wouldn't eat me if I promised to..." "To what?" said the mother. "Promise to distract you while they creep up behind you." "I'm sorry, Mommy," said the boy as the mother heard the floorboards behind her creak. The boy then watched with enjoyment as his mother was ripped apart piece by piece, with a giant smile on his face.
This is the most terrifying McDonald's you'll ever see. In 1986, the first floating McDonald's called the McBarge opened up. The plan was for the boat to travel around the world and for people to enjoy McDonald's everywhere. But then something crazy happened. The 5 employees that lived on the boat went crazy. They started to hear voices at night and even began hallucinating. All of this slowly started driving them insane. After 3 years of this, one fry cook decided enough was enough. She decided to end her life. Her body was discovered on this very boat the next morning. The McDonald's were forced to close and was even abandoned for over 20 years. It seemed like everyone forgot about this floating nightmare. This was the case until 2 years ago when a company decided to renovate the boat. And this article was published about renovating the boat. But a year later, there was still no news about it. And the McBarge was still abandoned. But then a couple YouTubers decided to swim and break into the McBarge. As they went around, everything was eerily silent. Like and follow for part 2.
This girl killed her mum and then texted a photo of her body to her dad. In 2013, Rachel Hudson and her family were supposed to be celebrating Thanksgiving at their home in Virginia. However, the holiday would take a horrendously sinister turn. Rachel's mum was terminally ill 58-year-old Susan Lee. Rachel had been her mum's carer since she was just 9 years old. On the evening in question, Rachel and her dad got into an argument. When her dad left the house the next day to make the most of the Black Friday sales, Rachel did something unthinkable. She took a weapon out of the wardrobe and loaded it. She apparently thought about unaliving herself at this point, but she didn't want to put her mum through the trauma of finding her body. She then walked into the room where her mum was and said, "I'm sorry, this is what has to happen." Her mum apparently told her, "You're crazy," and this is the point where Rachel killed her mum. When she texted her dad to break the news to him, he obviously didn't believe what she was saying. She then took a photo of her mum's body and texted it over to her dad. Rachel was sentenced initially to 50 years in prison, but this was reduced to 18 years because of an apparent undiagnosed mental illness.
This is the scariest song in the world, and here's why. Okay, so we all heard this song before, especially if you're into scary things and watch the Insidious movies. But do you know the very disturbing and chilling backstory behind this song? Well, the song is called Tiptoe Through the Tulips, and it was recorded and released in 1968 by American singer Tiny Tim. And when the song was first released, it didn't have the scary reputation it has now. However, this would change during his last ever live performance of the song. On September 28, 1996, Tiny Tim suffered a heart attack that was pretty miniature while performing at a music festival. And after this happened, his doctors advised him that he wasn't healthy enough to perform on stage anymore. However, Tiny Tim ignored the advice from his doctors and scheduled another concert at a women's club in Minnesota the next month. But right before his performance, he told his wife that he wasn't feeling that good. Nevertheless, Tiny Tim decided to go on stage anyway. And after performing the last song of the night, he suffered a major heart attack on stage and died in front of the crowd. And the song he was performing was Tiptoe Through the Tulips. This song was already terrifying, but it's 100 times more terrifying after knowing this. Now listen to it again after knowing this.
On March 19, 2024, in Mississippi, 14-year-old Carly Gregg made a phone call to one of her friends saying, quote, "Do you want to see a dead body?" Moments after making the call, Carly's stepfather walked into the home to see his wife, Ashley Smiley, unalived from gunshot wounds. Ashley was a loved individual who friends and family claim she was a, quote, "loving and caring teacher who wanted the best for her students." When her stepfather entered the home, at the same moment, Carly pulled out a gun and him. In the midst of the struggle, he was able to successfully disarm her, leaving Carly to escape the home, going on the run. It did not take police long to find and arrest her, and in most cases, children will be tried as a juvenile, but in Carly's case, she'll be tried as an adult for the unaliving of her mother and the attempted unaliving of her stepfather. From what I read on Reddit, people seem to be split 50-50 as they believe she should not be tried as an adult. What are your thoughts?
I'm alone and you hear a knock, don't answer the door. That was my grandmother's one rule when she left me the family house. I thought it was just the rantings of an old woman. I didn't know how real the rule was until the other night. The house I inherited was deep in the forest, far from bustling city noises. Silence was the unspoken language here, except sometimes you would hear the owls. But the other night when I was sitting in the living room reading a book, that's when I heard it. There was a single knock at the front door. And then I remembered my grandmother's warning. If you're home alone and you hear one knock, don't answer the door. I looked over at my grandfather clock in the corner. It was midnight. I told myself that the knock was just a figment of my imagination. It was just the house settling. or a fallen branch against the door. But then it came again, a single solitary knock. But this time it sounded closer. I was panicking. I just stood there staring at the door. The third knock was so loud that it made the door rattle. There was no more denying it. Something was at the door.
If you see this happen, you need to run fast. If you see these orange dots on a tree in the woods, you seriously need to run fast. It might just look like orange paint, but don't be fooled. This is a trap. There have been loads of reports of missing people in these types of woods. So if you see these orange markings in the woods, you need to run fast. Make sure you share this message and follow for more.
Now this video has got the internet going crazy because a guy in Melbourne, Australia is quite literally claiming that his dog was playing with a ghost. And after watching this, I bloody believe him. Now he insists that his backyard is fully secured and locked by a high fence where there is no way for another dog to get in. He also said that he ran outside to check if he hadn't lost the plot and the ghost dog was nowhere to be seen. And if this video hasn't got you contemplating life, another video which has scarred me for life is this bastard. Now keep your eyes on the collar of the black dog on the right. So as you can see, the two dogs are just barking and barking, and then suddenly out of nowhere, for some reason, they just go completely quiet. A few seconds later, the black dog then randomly jerks backwards into the side of the crate and its collar comes off of its own accord.
Have you ever wondered why Domino's dropped their Noid mascot back in the 90s? Just like how McDonald's has Ronald McDonald and Burger King had the King, Domino's had the Noid. First created in 1986, the slogan was "Avoid the Noid," as he would try to thwart pizza deliveries.
The Noid loves to roll pizza. Whole Domino's pizza. We are boys, the Noid.
But this all changed for Domino's on January 30th, 1989. On that day, Kenneth Lamar Noid took 2 Domino's Pizza employees hostage with a .357 Magnum in Georgia. Now, the entire ordeal lasted about 5 hours, and his demands were $10,000, a getaway car, and a copy of the book The Widow's Son. He also demanded the employees make him a pizza. While he was enjoying the pizza, they managed to escape and no one was hurt. Kenneth was arrested and charged with kidnapping, aggravated assault, and theft by extortion. So what exactly did the Domino's Noid have to do with Kenneth Noid? He had become convinced that the ads were directly aimed at him, with his last name being Noid and the ad saying, "Avoid the Noid." One of the arresting officers at the scene said that he was having an ongoing feud in his mind, believing that the commercials were made to mock him. He fully believed that the owner of Domino's Pizza was telling people to avoid him.
Avoid the Noid. Avoid the Noid. Avoid the Noid.
Now, he was charged but found not guilty due to reasons of insanity and was sent to a Georgia mental health clinic. Domino's continued on as normal until another incident in 1995. Still convinced that the pizza chain was out to get him, Kenneth took his own life in his Florida apartment. Following this, the pizza chain immediately stopped using the Noid in their marketing campaigns. Since then, the Noid has made a few smaller appearances on t-shirts, in pinball machines, in a video game, and a small snippet in an ad. Now, in 2021, Domino's released an ad showcasing their new driverless delivery vehicles. The ad showing off that the Noid is back, but he has not been seen since that ad.
This true crime case will make your blood boil. Over a decade ago, 19-year-old Cara Nichols vanished. The teenager was born and raised in Colorado Springs and unfortunately had begun using substances throughout high school. She was reported missing on the 14th of October 2012. At this point, her roommates hadn't heard from her for 5 days. Police soon learned that she'd actually spoken to her brother on the phone on the 9th of October at around 11:45 p.m. She told him that she was on her way to a modelling shoot. The next day, unsettlingly, her phone was going straight to answer phone. It was actually her brother that ended up travelling to her apartment to figure out what was going on. He spoke to her roommates and the alarm was raised. Now, Cara's laptop was actually still at her apartment, which was concerning because if she just decided to up and left, she wouldn't have left her laptop behind. When investigators started digging into the case, they found that Cara had been placing ads as an S-worker. Interestingly, she'd actually posted an ad with her phone number on it the same day she went missing. Police also found out that her phone had been used on that day too at almost midnight. Investigators started looking into exactly which numbers she'd received calls from and set about contacting the individuals. They got a return call of Joel Hollendorfer. He admitted to police that yes, he had spoke to the girl about S services, but they'd never ended up meeting. However, when police tracked Kara's phone, her last activity was in the area of Joel's parents' house. Police ended up searching at the property with a cadaver dog. Disturbingly, the dog barked in loads of different areas on the property to indicate remains. However, the owner of the property stated that this must be just because they have a lot of animals and over the years the animals die and then they bury them in the back garden. The police were happy with this explanation and gave up on the search. They also, though, decided to interview Joel's wife, who strangely declined to cooperate with the investigation. Frustratingly, Kara's case went cold. On February the 8th, 2022, a decade after she went missing, police confirmed that they had found Kara's body. It was on that property they'd searched the whole time. Joel was obviously arrested. In February 2022, his wife decided to come clean to police. She told them that Joel had told her in 2014 that he accidentally killed an escort that he'd hired. He admitted that he accidentally strangled her to death and buried her near a dead horse on the property. Joel's defense in court claimed that he accidentally killed her in an S act gone wrong and that she lost consciousness due to substance use. Shockingly, he was only convicted of manslaughter and got just 24 years in prison. This was a huge blow to Kara's family.